Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another interview here. I'm Dave Baldwin with Baldwin Systems. I am a business strategist for those of you who have not seen my videos before. And one of the things that I really like to do, and part of why I brought Crystal here today for today's interview, this is Crystal Cannata, which we'll share a little bit more about in a second. But part of my focus is helping to streamline systems and sales and marketing for your growing businesses. And I love working with companies that are in what I call that hockey stick phase, where you've got a hockey stick of growth. One of the pain points or issues that I've observed with a lot of business owners is when they get to that point, they don't know how to streamline sales. A lot of times you have the business owner is the one who has to do all the selling because nobody else in the company has the passion for it. No one else has the level of knowledge. No one else has necessarily the same skill set. And I've seen a lot of companies really struggle with this. And so today I brought in Crystal here to talk a little bit about really from the process standpoint. When you start to feel that pain in the sales area, how do you address that really from a process standpoint? I think we're going to really like some of the interviews that we go into today, because Crystal, like me, thinks a lot in terms of how to systematize and streamline things and how to create a system where the whole company doesn't depend on the unique skill sets of one person. Because as we all know, a lot of people have experienced, that's one of the biggest reasons why small businesses stay small, is the inability to transfer skill sets. So welcome, Crystal. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
And first of all, to start things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, The Right Hand Admin?
Yeah, sure. So I have a long background of operations management in, big companies, right? But I love working with small companies. I love the business owner who started a company because they had a really great skill and they had this really great passion, and so they started a business but maybe don't really know how to run the business. So I kind of took all my skills from my operations career and I brought it into small business, and now I essentially inject myself into these businesses. I look at their processes, I help them streamline, close up gaps, train their team, hire a team if they need to, and really just alleviate a lot of mental burden and time and stress from the business owner.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I think that one of the things we're going to go into here in a second is, a couple of those sources of time and stress for the business owners is when they can't delegate certain things. So thinking about this from a sales and marketing standpoint, as we got to the beginning, in your experience, what are some of the aspects of sales and marketing that are the most important and impactful for a business owner to start thinking about? How do I get this off my plate? How do I delegate this so somebody else can handle it? What would you say? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so most small business owners want to stay in control when it comes to the sales because they really are the face of their company. So we don't really want to give up that face-to-face sale, like making the sale, negotiating the sale, closing the deal interaction. But what we can give up is the steps that come right before that. So like the intake of a new lead, the qualifying of a new lead, and the putting of a new lead onto your calendar so that when you start your day, okay, I have 6 new potential customer interactions today, but they've all been vetted, they've all been confirmed. These are going to be true opportunities for me to sit down and make a sale. So you might think about doing something like a questionnaire, very simple. You don't want to scare people off with like a 3-hour test before they meet you, but like a very simple questionnaire that asks some key questions that would let you know if they were an ideal client. And then you might want to think about having somebody else make the appointment for you or confirm the appointment for you.
And I think that's a really good point. I mean, when you think about really the ideal picture is if you're the business owner, you're the expert, you're the one who needs to close the deal ultimately. But could you have a system set up where basically all you have to do is show up for the appointment, where essentially all of those little pieces and all of the activity leading up to that, the information's been gathered, everything's been prepared, and it's more like, okay, look on my calendar. Okay, I'm talking to somebody at 11 a.m. and here's the answers to their 5 survey questions. And it really takes, I guess, would it be reasonable to say you should be able to do that and be able to prepare in a few minutes or so for the appointment with all that activity done for you?
Yeah, because you're going to delegate that intake task in the way that makes sense for you, right? So that your support team is serving you. So, like, we have certain clients that want all the details of any past interactions with this person in their calendar description for that appointment. Or, maybe they want a PDF emailed them to them the day before, but something that they can quickly look at and, make their preparations immediately before.
So do you find that a lot of those type of functions can that be 100% automated, 50% automated, or what's your general thoughts on how automated can the sales process really be if somebody is really helping you get all that organized?
So I like to do like a 50-50, I guess, because I feel like if you completely automate things, then people start to get those like awkward confirmations after they've already talked to somebody, or like it gets too messy. So what I like to do is set up the automation, but then put a person in place to just say, yes, send this out. Yes, send this out. So you don't get that awkward, like, oh, you put me through an automated system kind of moment.
Well, my favorite one, and I remember posting about this on Facebook a while back, was getting thank you for attending emails from events that I didn't actually attend, or just because there's a dirty sales funnel somewhere, and I've been plugged into the wrong list. And thanks for buying this product. What do you mean? I didn't buy that product. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. And a lot of business owners, especially in like trades or anything that's a little bit technical or custom, they tend to think that so the sun's like in and out right here. I'm sorry. But they tend to think that nothing can be automated because it's all in their head. But I like to tell people, if you've said something more than like 3 times this week, it can be automated. We can generate a script for it. We can have an answer. Even if it's a custom technical thing, if you've said it more than 3 times this week, we can put a manual or process around somebody else answering that question.
That's a really good point. A 3 repetition rule. I'm thinking of it just because actually part of it reminds me of in a game of chess. If both players repeat the moves 3 times, it's declared a stalemate. So that might have not been what you were thinking about, but that's right where my head went. But so let me ask you, from the business owners that you've talked to, that when they finally delegated some of those pre-sale activities or whatever you would steer somebody to start delegating / automating, what would you say has been the biggest thing that there's been kind of an aha of, specifically from the standpoint of, wow, I wish I'd have done that sooner. I wish I'd have done that a year ago. What have you found to be the biggest things that the business owners have wished they would have pulled the trigger on sooner, as far as the delegation aspect and setting up a process?
Yeah, so two key things, those dips and valleys, ebbs and flows that you get in your business where you're like super, super busy and then you all of a sudden you're so slow. Those tend to even out because a lot of times when the business owner is handling everything, when you're super busy with sales appointments and you're closing deals, all the other leads and everybody who's trying to come into your funnel kind of get pushed to the side because you're good, you're rolling, right? Now all of a sudden you close all those deals. Now you try and go back to those people and they don't want to talk to you anymore. They already went with somebody else. So now
Yep.
you're back in this hustle to get your funnel filled up again, where if you just kept those other people engaged, you wouldn't have to deal with that. So they find that they have a much more steady cash flow. And then they also find that their close rate is like it's through the roof because not a lot of companies are putting in the time and effort to get that support in the customer service side of it, because that's really what it is, right? That's your customer's interaction with your company. So once you start to do that, you're following up with people, you're sending confirmations, you're letting them know that you're here. Your close rate goes up because there's like this instant trust before they've even met with the business owner.
Yeah, you make a really good point there, and I could especially see how if an owner has to pick and choose because they're having to do it all, and they're thinking, okay, well, I've got a $20,000 sale over here and a $200 sale over here. The $200 sale is the one that's going to fall by the wayside. But then, to your point, 3 months later, it's like, well, I could really use some of those $200 sales now, but now that ship's already sailed. And the other part that I wonder about is I see a common scenario with businesses is they're putting out fires in operations or delivery, or as far as just getting the work done. And so sales and marketing just goes out the window. So that's where you have unreturned phone calls from prospects and all that kind of stuff. Is that something that you see and get involved with, helping put systems in place to solve that issue as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot on the customer service side. So again, where I say if you're doing it or saying it more than 3 times, we can systematize it. We can go into most businesses where I work a lot with trade type companies, right? Or consultants sometimes. So there's like a lot of appointments, a lot of crews, a lot of things to manage. And you would think that administrative support for somebody like that would be, a 40-hour per week salary. But when you put the systems in place, we can usually go in and do all the customer service in about 5 to 10 hours a week. And that includes like responding to all of the emails so that when the business owner sits down, at the end of a long day, they don't have to go back and answer all of the emails. Responding to voicemails, sending out estimates and forms, all the little things that, yeah, as you're putting out fires and closing deals, which are the things that are going to drive your business forward, they're getting forgotten in the background, and those little details are actually where you get to scale your business.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So let me ask you, when business owner, and I think you've partially answered this question already, but I want to circle back to it briefly. And I think one of the great things, the benefits I think maybe people don't anticipate would be if they're on that sales roller coaster of my phone's blowing up and then I'm bone dry a month later, evening out that cycle, I think is a really great thing to have happen if you're streamlining the sales. But now let me ask you, as far as when people finally move forward and do that and they get their sales streamlined, they start to get some of those pre-sale activities off their plate. Are there any other insights or things that are that happen, or things that they begin to realize about their own business that perhaps they did not see before they actually moved forward and did that and started to delegate?
Yeah, it's almost becomes an addiction once you start automating and you see how smooth the process can be, right? Because then you kind of have this like smooth first part of the process, then you close the deal, and it's like, oh my gosh. So then we usually would start moving into like, okay, well, how can we automate sending out your contract so you don't have to make a Microsoft Word document every time? How do we automate, if you have recurring services, how do we put them into some kind of a project manager so that you're not manually calling the people every month to schedule? How do we create an online booking system? How do we create a process manual for so that if you get sick and you need to take a day off, like you can just say to somebody, hey, these are the essential things, can you go and get these things done for me? So we kind of like start with now this smooth intake process and sales process, and then we kind of like really follow the customer's journey, honestly, all the way through to like being invoiced and asking for review and testimonial. And then that's where the business owner starts to see, wow, I could cut 10, 20 hours a week off of my work. I can end my day at 5 o'clock and not worry about it anymore and go spend time with my family. So it really starts to be addicting because it's so life changing.
And I love that, because I could see it sounds like you might have somebody that doesn't really see what's possible as far as delegation, and it might seem overwhelming if you think about trying to move the whole mountain at one time. But it's kind of like, well, if we set up a system for the simplest part over here, then all of a sudden it's an eye opener about, wow, maybe we could automate this other piece too, where maybe they wouldn't have anticipated that at the beginning. So that's great. I love that incremental type of approach. Let's see. So why don't we just, let me ask you, what would be some of, you wanted to share a little bit about what are some of the other services that your company provides, or other areas that you can assist people where, let's say you get your sales process 100% streamlined. Are there any other things that you like to go to work on next?
Yeah, I love helping business owners build their team. So I'm not a recruiting agency in any way, but once I'm on the inside and I see what needs to be done sort of administratively to maintain the processes that we've set in place, I start working with the business owner to say, okay, now how can we get you some help so that you're no longer an employee of your business, you're the owner, right? And so we build out process manuals, I build out task managers, and then I will actually go to work to help you find somebody, whether it's a virtual assistant or an employee, and then help you train them help the business owner train them in the processes that we've already set up, so that the business owner doesn't even have to learn how to, communicate this new process. Because uh, I tend to think that business owners have like more visionary, creative, big idea mindsets, and administrative teams have more like, give me the task and the minute details of how to do it, and then I'm going to get it done for you. And so oftentimes one of my favorite things to do is to like close that gap for people and say, listen, I'm going to help your administrative team understand these big visions that you have in your head so that you can have them come to life. And then that's usually where I feel comfortable saying, okay, now I can step away because I know you're good and you're set up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like to me, I mean, you're definitely speaking my language here, because I think a lot of times management is basically amounts to being a translator. And so it sounds like on at least a temporary basis, part of your role is serving as an interim business manager to say,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, the owner said this is what they want, but here's what that really means in terms of the A to Z tasks that have
Yeah.
to be executed. And I know I've seen some of the, I want to get this on a coffee mug sometimes, where somebody says, do what I meant, not what I said. I saw that on a meme somewhere. And so, yeah, I think that's really great, because I think you make a good point that so many people have a vision that it's like, well, it's clear in my head what I want. Why isn't it clear to everybody else? It's like, well, because you haven't actually communicated that. So
Yeah, and you'll find a lot of business owners will be really frustrated with their team, and then their team is really frustrated with their boss. And sometimes, yeah, you just need somebody to come in like from the outside and say, okay, this is what I think you're saying. And in technical terms, like this is how you would make it happen. And there's like this aha moment, and then they can move forward. So even kind of like coaching and connecting people who already have teams, kind of helping them connect with their teams and get the work done. Then you have business owners that say, oh my, after 6 weeks, oh my God, I've been trying to do this for the last 15 years, and I love that. I love that.
yeah, no, that sounds good. I mean, because it really boils down to, for me, it seems the problem is being one of mismatched expectations, or just people talking across each other on different wavelengths. And yeah, that I can see a great need for that. So, Crystal, to kind of wrap things up, why don't you just tell us what is the best way if people want to find out more about your company? What's the best way for people to find out more about you?
Yeah, they can just go to the righthandadmin.com, and I have all of the information up there. And then even if you want pricing, everything's right there.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Crystal, for joining us today. This has been really great. And everybody stay tuned for more of these interviews. You can find me at dave-baldwin.com. Don't forget the hyphen. And that is all for now. Stay tuned till next time.